Hi, I'm Nicole Roberts-Jones, and welcome to The Fierce Files. Now, what I know for sure is that one of life's greatest gifts will meet you when you go after your more. And so here is why I share with you thought-provoking insight and behind-the-curtain conversations with women who have reached the pinnacle of success because they went after their more. Now, I really want you to get this. One idea from these episodes can make a remarkable difference, not just in your career, but in your life. And I want to make sure you join the conversation in our Facebook group. So go to findyourfiercemovement.com. Now grab your pen and get ready for today's session of The Fierce Files. Hello, ladies, and welcome to this episode of The Fierce Files. So today I'm excited to introduce to some and welcome for others, Miss Caroline Clarke. Now, Caroline is the Chief Brand Officer of Black Enterprise, and in 2005, she co-founded the Women of Power brand, right? Now, many of you may have heard of Women of Power, but many of you may not know that, listen, a decade before today's focus on the plight, performance, and progression of women in business, no less women of color in business, Women of Power set out to build a platform for that, right? And so Women of Platform encompasses Women of Power TV, Women of Power, the summit, I should say, the largest national annual conference for women of color in business in, I would say, the world, right? I don't know if it's the world. I know it's this country. So she is, right. She's an award-winning journalist. She's an acclaimed author, a public speaker. She is a passionate advocate for adoption and public education. She's an advisor for or director to several nonprofits. And on top of all of that, she is a mom of two. So ladies, please welcome Miss Caroline Clarke. Yay. Excited to have you.
Yay. Excited to be here. Thank you so much, Nicole. I really appreciate it. Love what you do.
Well, let's just jump right in. You know, I was telling Caroline before we hopped on this call that so many of us know her from Black Enterprise, and I want to know about the Caroline that we don't see. And really that moment for you, Caroline, in your trajectory as a journalist, in your trajectory of having worked in education and having a passion for it. When did you get to that big moment of more for you?
You know, I think I'm kind of in the midst of my moment of more. And at midlife, that's not really what I expected. So that's interesting. I think, you know, I was one of those women, like most, I think, who was very much a planner. I had parents who were, you know, full of high expectations, cracked the whip academically. I was a very good girl. I did all the stuff I was supposed to do. And, you know, that included planning to be successful, right? And I think you reach a point when you have done all the things you were supposed to do. And if you're very blessed, you know, they turn out pretty well, which for me, they did. But then suddenly, you know, your children are grown and your parents are gone. And I think so much more of my life than I realized really revolved around and was defined by being a mother and a daughter. And now that I am, you know, a mother of adults, pretty much, well, at least they think they're adults, and, you know, and my parents and a lot of my elders who really shaped me and helped form my goals are gone. It's really, I'm really truly in a process of figuring out, you know, who am I now and what more do I want just for me without having to shape what I want around my parents' expectations or my children's needs. You know, what is that? And I don't think I was aware as I was going through all those years, you know, immersed in that mother-daughter sandwich space of how much I was shaping myself around them as opposed to really thinking about, you know, what do I want? What do I need? Who do I want to be?
And I love that you said that, because what I know for sure, so many of us, and I don't have kids of my own, I have bonus children, right? But I love that you were transparent enough to share that you're in a place now of really understanding who you are beyond being a mom and a daughter. And I'm in the same place you know, losing parents and really, you know, I will say, it's so funny you just said that, because I just had this conversation with my husband, I think it was like a week ago, that, you know, my mother-in-law passed recently, and going to her memorial service and hearing people talk about her makes you think about, what are people going to say about me? And am I living into a legacy? And what the heck am I doing anyway? Right?
Yeah. I've been there, I mean, I talk about the fact that both of my parents are passed, but my mother-in-law, who was a huge figure in my life as well, both in my professional life, because she was one of the founding women with Women of Power. She came out of retirement to do it, so a lot of what we did in the early days was shaped very much with her vision.
Right.
And her opinions in mind. So, I think losing those forces that have shaped you in powerfully profound ways is hard, right? I mean, loss is just hard. I think it's really just the hardest thing. And I don't think we give grief its due these days. The culture just doesn't want to pause for grief the way it used to. And I think it's very hard. I think losses of mothers, in particular, both for women and men, they take a long time to recover from. They really throw you.
We're going to stop here and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back for more. Hey there, women of power, of purpose, of passion, women of intention. Yes, you are already successful, but there's a rumble in your belly. Like a secret yearning for something beyond what you already do at work, beyond your corner office, your expense account, or your 6-figure salary. And if you say yes, then let me tell you that rumble is there because there's more for you to do. And what if that more allowed you to wake up every single day full of immense joy, doing work you love, working with people you love, and creating the impact you were born to make in this world? Oh, and get paid for it. Yes, it's possible. And that's why I'm inviting you to join me for my free online training called Do Work I Love. That's right. There's no more important career path than to figure out how to align your purpose with your paycheck. So go to doworkilove.com and register to join me. See, I can't wait to share with you the strategy, the insight, the tools you need to take that rumble outside of your belly and make it real in your life. That's why I'm excited about what I'm going to teach you during doworkilove.com, so that you can get your brilliance, your purpose, your fears out in this world. If that's you and you're ready, I'll see you at doworkilove.com.
But, and that's not necessarily about an age, because we can lose, a mom at any age. Look at, just this week, the terrible passing of Kim Porter, and, she has young daughters, right?
Yeah.
So I think that loss is a seminal one. And you really have to recreate yourself after that in a way. And, what that piece of more looks like, I'm really still trying to figure out.
And I love that, just thinking about that, what does that piece of more look like? So if you don't mind sharing, like being in that and sitting in that and trying to figure that out, what kind of questions are coming up for you?
I think I've been in a place for a while, because Women of Power is over a decade. We will be February 28th to March 3rd having our 14th Women of Power Summit. Right. And,
and by the way, and let me just say this, a quick commercial for you. If you haven't gone, ladies that are listening to this, it's undescribable. The women in the room, and let me just say this real quick, and I know you didn't know I was going to say this, but I go to conferences all the time as a speaker, and the kind of support and encouragement that you get in a room full of powerful women is like nothing I have ever experienced. So if you haven't even thought about it, you need to look at it. So anyway, sorry, I just had to say that. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you for that. No, thank you for that. And thank you, Nicole, for everything that you've added to the Women of Power Summit whenever you're there. It is a powerful experience, but I'll tell you, a lot of our theming this year is around creating a life by design, not default, right? Which speaks directly into your power of more concept, right? I think we all are faced with so many things in life that we can't control, whether we're conscious of it or not. So much of life becomes responding to those things rather than, directly, definitively creating what you want. And, and we can't avoid that. So, that's fine. But women of power, ironically, is not something I ever saw myself doing. And it has come to define so much of my career and how I'm perceived. So I really set out what I wanted to be when I was a kid was a famous writer, because I loved to write. And in my mind, famous writers, you knew their work and they had lasting impact, and you maybe knew their name, but you would never recognize them on a street corner. You know, they would be shopping right next to you in the supermarket. You would never know. So they were able to, you know, have broad, meaningful impact, but really maintain their privacy and normalcy. And I know we're living in a time when a lot of people want to be famous. That was never me. I wanted my name to mean something, but I really didn't want the personal exposure. So, you know, I set out to be a writer, and that's what I was for a long time. I was a magazine editor. I moved through a number of jobs at Black Enterprise, including creating a book division. I wrote books, became an author. But Women of Power was something that the audience asked for, and because I was in the right place at the right time and had a natural affinity for it, I became, you know, intrinsic to its creation. And it has absolutely, without question, been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. It has stretched me, and it has pushed me, and it has positioned me in a way that I never expected. So it's very hard for me, you know, when you introduce me and you say, you know, people know her or people see her. I don't really understand all of that, what that is. I really am thrilled that anything I've done has had a meaningful impact on anyone. I really am. But I also know that, you know, and I know this for all of us, that how we present in our positions and our, you know, public spaces is a really tiny piece in a way of who we are and what our life really is. And that more, you know, that larger part of yourself that you don't necessarily transmit when you're focused on serving others, it can go undeveloped. You know,
but I want to
important.
And I want to interrupt you because the thing, and I don't even know if you realize you said this and you've done this. What you just said, and I'm going to paraphrase, is Women of Power started from a need. And hearing what people need, and what you have become is the answer to a group of people that needed it. And what many people don't do when they get to that place of more, because that really, and I love that you said it stretched you and it grew you and pushed you in ways you never thought you could imagine. But had you not said yes in the face of the need, you would have never been stretched or pushed. You could have stayed in your comfort zone doing what you were already doing. And again, you never set out to do this. And that is really why this is why I started the Fierce Files, because what I know for sure is many women that are already successful, they get to that place where they hear a need. And either they say yes to it and grow and push and shift the way they need to say yes to it, or they stay comfortable. And what you did, my sister friend, is you pushed and look at where Women of Power is because you said yes.
Right. Absolutely. And like I said, you know, if everything went away today, I would be just exceptionally proud of this, because it has really mattered. It has mattered to a growing audience of women, and the fact that it continues to grow, you know, after more than a decade, when so many things, you know, are fleeting, right, and quickly go away it's enormously satisfying. But I think it's also important to recognize, you know, I think we can get stuck in a place when it is satisfying, when you are still meeting a need, when it does still matter, especially to, you know, a significant number of people. You know, I think some of us get too comfortable there also and forget to check back in with, okay, but what did I really set out to do, and what do I still want to do, and what have I not been doing? Because so much of my energy is focused here.
That's so good. That's good.
So, you know, trying to figure out how to pivot, how to create room, perhaps, for more of the things that, you know, are sort of gaining volume in your head, you know, in terms of things that maybe I've laid aside, as an example. I've written 2 books. My last book was a memoir that came out 4 years ago called Postcards from Cookie.
Mm-hmm.
You asked about my activism in the adoption space, and that comes from the fact that I was adopted as an infant, and I care very, very deeply about the adoption arena. And I wrote a memoir that was really triggered by the fact that I sort of accidentally discovered my mother. I was not searching for her. A number of things happened, and I came to understand who she was. Turned out she was the older sister of a dear friend of mine. Wow. And I had known the family for many years. So, that was 4 years ago. I would have thought I would have written at least 1 more book by now, if not 2. As I said, when I was a kid, that was really all I really wanted to do.
Right.
So, I have the platform for doing that. I have a following as an author. I have an agent, publisher, who would love me to do more in this area. And I just haven't been able to spend the time doing that. So, the more for me is that, is figuring out how to balance my desire to continue to serve this particular audience of women who I know and love so well, and who I want to see grow and thrive and prosper, and also do more of what, I know is my heart's desire, and I believe is my purpose, which is to write.
Right. And it's like you're standing at this crossroad, and it's like, what direction do I go in?
Right. And sometimes it's not that you have to choose one or the other, but if you're going to try, to bring the 2 roads together, you have to be realistic as to whether that's possible and how you can really do it.
Right. And really finding the time, because it's so funny. I was a guest on a online training last weekend, and a woman asked me, when you're already busy, and mind you, all the women are corporate executive women that listen to this training, and they could ask me questions live. And one woman said, well, what do you do when you're busy? And I said, let me explain to you that God only calls people that are busy. So when you're not busy, he's not calling you, right? So you'll never be less busy. And so I love how you said finding the time and carving it out. And even as you shared about your pivot and making room for more, and it's when your plate is already full, right? How do you make that?
Well, who's not busy?
Right.
Yeah. Who's not? I mean, who's not busy? I hate to say, oh, I was too busy to do this, too busy to do that, because we're all too busy all the time.
Right.
I do really struggle with that, because I think that we tend to sometimes get competitive about it. I hear women in particular all the time say they haven't taken a vacation in 5 years, or they've never taken a 7-day vacation, or, they just don't have the time to do this, that, or the other. That's about self-care and rest and reflection. I just think that's an incredibly unhealthy paradigm. And, I don't ever feel I have anything to prove by working myself to death.
Right.
And I think that we do have to, start to be more competitive about wellness and self-care, and, not trying always to seem like we have to be at anywhere.
Right.
I just think that's not sustainable, and, and it's not helping us. But, But yeah, I think becoming super intentional, I mentioned it at Women of Power Summit, we're going to talk a lot about intention. I think being really intentional about your time from the moment you wake up in the morning until the moment you lay your head on the pillow at night, that's something that I've been more focused on, because time management has become far more complicated than it used to be. We're constantly inundated by so many distractions, texts constantly coming in, emails constantly coming in, tweets constantly coming in the midst of every other thing, right? Your actual job, your actual kids, your actual parents, your actual community service, your actual neighbors, your actual keep the home fires burning and food cooking and all the rest of it, right?
And have a social life too, and have time for your girlfriends to go have a cocktail, right?
all of it, right? So I think really chomping down on the fact that there's never going to be more than 24 hours in a day, and having the courage to really customize those hours in the way that you know works best for you, which is not going to necessarily be the way that works for your partner or your children or your employer.
Right. And I got to stop you right there because you just said a huge nugget that somebody needed to hear today. So let's make sure they heard it. So customize those hours, those 24 hours you have in a day. It's totally up to you how you use it. Not your mother, not your sister, not your cousin, not your spouse or significant other, not your friends. It's up to you. I love it. And literally being intentional with just that. And what I've had to learn is no is a complete sentence. I don't have to explain to you why I'm not coming. I don't have to explain to you why I'm not doing that. No, I cannot. It's a complete sentence. Yeah. So I love that.
No is an absolute complete sentence. And honestly, it is one of the most powerful sentences there is, rivaled only by yes, which is a complete sentence too, right? So I think a lot of us are very good at saying yes. And some of us need to get better at saying no. But I think when it comes to customizing your time, that can take a lot of iterations. I have a thing when I'm on vacation, Right. So I unplug, like really unplug. I don't check email. I don't listen to voicemail unless, I see someone pop up who it looks like it's going to be an emergency. I am of an age when I can remember when, my parents didn't know where I was every second and couldn't reach me if their lives depended on it. And I did okay. So, I think we don't always need to be reachable all the time. And we don't always need to be reaching out to everybody else all the time. I don't call my team on weekends. I try very hard not to send them emails on weekends. Now I may be working on a weekend, but if I do send an email, I'll send it and I'll say, I don't expect to hear from you before Monday. I just had to send this because if I didn't send it now, I might forget by Monday, right? But I want them to have downtime. I think downtime really matters. When it's time to be on, it's time to be on. I don't expect you to be having your weekend on Wednesday, but, I want everybody to be able to get a break. I think it matters. So, whether it's that you turn your text off sometimes, which, hello, we can do, or, you really vow that you're only going to be on social media between this moment and that moment, and you stay off of it otherwise, not pulling your phone out at meals. I'm one of those people. I've totally been guilty of it, but I've also totally been sitting at a table with another person thinking, why am I here if you're on your phone? That's time management. That's multitasking. Being present matters. Right?
Whether you never get that moment back.
Whether it's in church, you see people in church, phones out. I've done it too, so I'm not judging.
Look, I take my notes on my phone in church. Look, I have my notes open. If you see me in church, don't talk about me. I'm writing my notes.
Well, and listen, and you could have your Bible up in church, right? So it could be that your Bible's on your phone too. But I'm just saying, I think we are so accustomed to multitasking, and we are losing in that process. And that goes to the heart of effectiveness in how you think and how you feel and in what your day ends up looking like and how productive you are. It is so easy to have your productivity derailed by stuff that does matter, but can't matter every single second of the day.
Ooh, that right there is just, that last 3-4 minutes was worth listening to this podcast. Because listen, what I know for sure, and you know it too, is that all of us live in a world where where many women don't know how to be intentional with their time. So as we wrap this conversation, because you've given us so much, right? And I love this, creating a life by design, not default, because everything you've given us in the last 20 or so minutes has totally been around that. But if you had to give women 3 things they have to do to live a life by design and not default, right? First, and let me say this. When I think of living a life by design and not default, life doesn't just happen. You do what you want, when you want, how you want. In other words, you're making it happen, right? That's what I think the difference between design and default is. So for every woman that's listening, The successful woman who already has her corner office, has done all the things she's wanted, but has this more rumbling in her belly. For her to get to this life that she wants to design as her next, what will you tell her the 3 things that she must do?
There's a sign that I used. It was on my daughter's wall in her room growing up. And I sold my house recently and told her to take what she wanted, and she didn't take it. So I took it, and now it's in my room. And it says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So, I would say to everybody, that goes to the heart of intentionality. And you can't be intentional if you lack self-awareness. You have to take the time to really get real with yourself. Who are you? Who are you showing up as? Are they in alignment? Who do you want to be? And what do you have to do to make sure that's who you become? That's all about intention. Right. And I think everything we do stems from the heart of who we are. So, if you have stuff to work on, be really intentional about working on it. I am not the most disciplined person. That is one of the things that I am working on. But sometimes it's inches. Yeah. So fine, live in the inches. But don't just throw your hands up and say, I can't, or I don't have time, or nobody's going to care, or it's not going to matter. Right. What matters most at the end of the day is that when you do put your head on the pillow, you feel you've done what you could with your day. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to check every box, but it's got to be enough. We've got to figure out how to be enough in a world where it feels like nothing is ever enough. And that just requires deciding that that's what the goal is and then going for it.
Ooh, I'm writing notes, you guys. You hear me being quiet sometimes. Oh my God, that's good. So the best way to predict your future is to create it, right? These are the notes I got. Live in the inches. Oh my God, that's good. Live in the inches, right? I often tell my clients, you're not in a marathon. You're not in a sprint. You're in a marathon. Right. So stop trying to hurry up and get to the goal and take your time. And what's that saying? Smell the flowers. So that means to me, savor every moment and be present. Right. And then we have to figure out how to be enough. Oh my God. Everything you have said, Caroline, has been so valuable. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your commitment, not just to women and women of power, but thank you to your commitment to be all of who you were born to be. And thank you for your willingness to come on the Fierce Files and share with the ladies.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, really. Thank you for everything you do. I know that you are just having enormous impact for so many individuals and for so many collectively. And I hope you know how truly valued and appreciated it is. Really.
Thank you. Phenomenal. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Fierce Files. Now, I want you to walk away from these episodes with value, so grab your pen and answer either one or all 3 of these questions. Number 1, what was your greatest takeaway? Number 2, what will you do differently as a result of what you heard? So you may have heard something you've already heard before, or you may have learned something new. Either way, don't take the insight that was shared with you for granted. So commit to doing one thing different because of what you heard. Number 3, what was confirmation for you? What did you hear that confirmed you're on the right path? See, I want you to take a moment and celebrate you. Too often in our journey, we focus on what we're not doing and we forget to celebrate what we are doing. So what was something that showed you that you're headed in the right direction? Now, I want you to share your answers. Share your answer to either number 1, what was your greatest takeaway? Number 2, what would you do different? Or number 3, what was confirmation for you? And share it in our Facebook community. So go to findyourfiercemovement.com and use the hashtag FierceFiles. Now, each experience we encourage, support, and celebrate as a community. It allows us to expand in possibility and wisdom, in encouragement and love. Now, we've invited you into our community to deepen our journey with being the answer someone needs and in being committed to your next level. So until the next time, be extraordinary, be unapologetic, be bodaciously you, go and be fierce.